Please like the video and share it so that it reaches many more people and you get sawaba, or rewards from Allah. This could be a sawabe jariyah or continuous reward for you long after you are gone.
Volume 2, Book 17, number 128. Narrated by Qatada. Anas I said, while Allah's Apostle, P.B.U.H., was delivering the Friday khutbah sermon, a man came and said, O Allah's Apostle, rain is scarce. Please ask Allah to bless us with rain. So he invoked Allah for it, and it rained so much that we could hardly reach our homes, and it continued raining till the next Friday. Anas further said, then the same or some other person stood up and said, O Allah's Apostle, invoke Allah to withhold the rain. On that, Allah's Apostle I said, O Allah, round about us and not on us. Anas added, I saw the clouds dispersing right and left, and it continued to rain, but not over Medina. Volume 2, Book 17, number 129. Narrated by Anas. A man came to the Prophet, P.B.U.H., and said, livestock are destroyed and the roads are cut off. So Allah's Apostle invoked Allah for rain, and it rained from that Friday till the next Friday. The same person came again and said, houses have collapsed, roads are cut off, and the livestock are destroyed. Please pray to Allah to withhold the rain. Allah's Apostle stood up and said, O Allah, let it rain, on the plateaus, on the hills, in the valleys and over the places where trees grow. So the clouds cleared away from Medina as clothes are taken off. Volume 2, Book 17, number 130. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. A man came to Allah's Apostle and said, O Allah's Apostle, livestock are destroyed and the roads are cut off. So please invoke Allah. So Allah's Apostle prayed, and it rained from that Friday to the next Friday. Then he came to Allah's Apostle I and said, O Allah's Apostle, houses have collapsed, roads are cut off, and the livestock are destroyed. So Allah's Apostle, P.B.U.H., prayed, O Allah, let it rain, on the tops of mountains, on the plateaus, in the valleys and over the places where trees grow. So the clouds cleared away from Medina as clothes are taken off. Volume 2, Book 17, number 131. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. IP man complained to the Prophet about the destruction of livestock and property and the hunger of the offspring. So he invoked Allah for rain. The narrator, Anas, did not mention that the Prophet had worn his cloak inside out or faced the Qibla. Volume 2, Book 17, number 132. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. A man came to Allah's Apostle and said, O Allah's Apostle, livestock are destroyed and the roads are cut off. So please invoke Allah. So Allah's Apostle prayed for rain, and it rained from that Friday till the next Friday. Then a man came to the Prophet, P.B.U.H., and said, O Allah's Apostle, the houses have collapsed, roads are cut off, and the livestock are destroyed. So Allah's Apostle said, O Allah, let it rain, on the tops of the mountains, on the plateaus, in the valleys and over the places where trees grow. So the clouds cleared away from Medina as clothes are taken off. Volume 2, Book 17, number 133. Narrated by Masruq. One day I went to Ibn Masud, who said, when Quraysh delayed in embracing Islam, the Prophet I invoked Allah to curse them. So they were afflicted with a famine year, because of which many of them died, and they ate the carcasses. And Abu Sufyan came to the Prophet and said, O Muhammad, you came to order people to keep good relation with kith and kin, and your nation is being destroyed. So invoke Allah. So the Prophet I recited the holy verses of Surat ad-Dukhan. Then watch you for the day that the sky will bring forth a kind of smoke plainly visible. 44.10. When the famine was taken off, the people renegade once again as non-believers. The statement of Allah, in Surah Ad-Dukhan, -44, refers to that, on the day when we shall seize you with a mighty grasp. 44.16. And that was what happened on the day of the Battle of Badr. Asbath added on the authority of Mansur, Allah's apostle prayed for them and it rained heavily for 7 days. So the people complained of the excessive rain. The Prophet said, "O Allah, let it rain around us and not on us." So the clouds dispersed over his head and it rained over the surroundings. Volume 2, Book 17, number 134. Narrated by Anas. Allah's apostle, I was delivering the khutbah, sermon, on a Friday when the people stood up, shouted and said, "O Allah's apostle, there is no rain, drought, the trees have dried and the livestock are destroyed. Please pray to Allah for rain." So Allah's apostle said twice, "O Allah, bless us with rain." By Allah, there was no trace of cloud in the sky, and suddenly the sky became overcast with clouds and it started raining. The Prophet came down the pulpit and offered the prayer. When he came back from the prayer to his house, it was raining and it rained continuously till the next Friday. When the Prophet started delivering the Friday khutbah, sermon, the people started shouting and said to him, "The houses have collapsed and the roads are cut off. So please pray to Allah to withhold the rain." So the Prophet smiled and said, "O Allah, round about us and not on us." So the sky became clear over Medina, but it kept on raining over the outskirts of Medina, and not a single drop of rain fell over Median. I looked towards the sky, which was as bright and clear as a crown. Volume 2, Book 17, number 135. Narrated by Abbas bin Tamim. That his uncle, who was one of the companions of the Prophet, had told him, the Prophet went out with the people to invoke Allah for rain for them. He stood up and invoked Allah for rain, then faced the Qibla and turned his cloak, inside out, and it rained. Volume 2, Book 17, number 136. Narrated by Abbas bin Tamim. From his uncle, who said, the Prophet went out to invoke Allah for rain. He faced the Qibla invoking Allah. He turned over his cloak, inside out, and then offered 2 rakat and recited the Quran aloud in them. Volume 2, Book 17, number 137. Narrated by Abbas bin Tamim from his uncle. I saw the Prophet on the day when he went out to offer the istisqa, prayer. He turned his back towards the people and faced the Qibla and asked Allah for rain. Then he turned his cloak inside out and led us in a 2 rakat prayer and recited the Quran aloud in them. Volume 2, Book 17, number 138. Narrated by Abbas bin Tamim from his uncle, who said, the Prophet invoked Allah for rain and offered a 2 rakat prayer and he put his cloak inside out. Volume 2, Book 17, number 139. Narrated by Abbas bin Tamim from his uncle, who said, the Prophet invoked Allah for rain and offered a 2 rakat prayer and he put his cloak inside out. Volume 2, Book 17, number 140. Narrated by Abdullah bin Zayd al-Ansari. The Prophet went out to the Masala to offer the istisqa, prayer, faced the Qibla and offered a 2 rakat prayer and turned his cloak inside out. Narrated Abu Bakr, the Prophet put the right side of his cloak on his left side.